What's up, gang? It's your boy Thomas Faliliu with Roots in the City podcast, and I am here with Todd, Kealoha, Kanekoa. Man, what's up, bud?
What's up, Thomas? Thanks for inviting me on, bro.
Oh, man, appreciate you coming on, man. So, just for the audience, to understand here, man, Todd reached out to me when it was early on. I think it was like my second or my first episode. I was airing and I got an email from him or I got a DM from him. So he sent me his information and man, his story just caught me. And I was like trying to schedule and find the right time. And today is the right time to get this young man here, man, onto this podcast, man. I say young because you look sharp, man. So Todd, real quick, man, for people hearing your story for the first time, who is Todd?
I'm a husband and I'm a father and I'm a child of God. And I strive to be
Right.
good at all those things now. I think for anyone listening to this, to understand about who I am today is I'm just a guy that has been and put himself through a lot of adversity. Not only has God put me through it, I've put myself through it. And I've had to fight back in life to get to wherever this is right now. I have had to earn every bit of it. And so for anyone, I like to maybe reach out to your audience of people who maybe are in their own woes and their own struggles, is that if you are currently going through it, you can do everything if you put like all of your faith in the Lord and you try to do things His way.
Oh no, I mean like that is in a nutshell, man. That right there is something that we all try to strive for, right? Like we go through these challenges of life and whatever journey that we go through, it all comes down to choices, right? And so obviously you are here on this platform because you've made some decisions throughout your life that got you to the point you are today. But those were some hard places that you went to, man. And we're gonna deep dive into that, but we're gonna take it back, man. We're gonna take it back to your childhood. What was life growing up, man? Tell everybody where you're from and what was life growing up there.
Yeah, so I was actually adopted through LDS Social Services. So the church has been in my life since the beginning. And my biological mother was like, I don't know, 16 or 17. She's white. My dad was an islander. They were both involved in drugs and alcohol from Southern California. So I was born in Riverside, California, and adopted by a Hawaiian family, the Kanekoas, whose name I took, in Washington State. So my dad,
Wow.
who raised me, left from he's from West Side, Nanakuli, moved up to Washington State, which is where I grew up a lot. And so early life, my father actually had been a branch president for like a Asian Pacific Islander branch at one time.
Wow.
And then we lived in a town called Vancouver, and then we moved out to a smaller city called Washougal, where there's a Camas paper mill. So my dad was really a salt of the earth guy working in a plant, a job he probably hated half the time, and my
Right.
mom stayed at home. On the outside, growing up, things looked really good. As I've gotten older, I figured out, on the inside, stuff was really chaotic because over the years, I've kind of heard that island culture, or the way that some families choose to raise their kids, is a little bit different than how other kids raise them. Because my father was born in 1941, who raised me, right?
Wow.
And
That's a long, yeah.
yeah, it's a long time ago. And
Long time.
and his father was abusive. His father was an alcoholic. And I think the church, my dad's a convert, and so was my mom who raised me. I think the church was their saving grace, the one thing that made them good people, the half of them that was good. The other side is, like my father was abusive. My father always put hands on me. I lived in constant fear when I was a kid. And this isn't to bash them in any way, right? This is just kind of
Right.
how it was growing. And so I just felt really trapped and scared a lot of the time because of how my father was. Now my mom was just a very control freak, super manipulative, but also the good parts. I want to highlight the good parts too, not just the bad parts. I think the bad
Right.
parts are what kind of caused my downward spiral and rebellion eventually, but you know, they instilled hard work in me. You know, they weren't all bad. They made me they had this like unrealistic expectation that I had to be better than everyone else. Like, uh, I had to be the best on the wrestling team. I had to be the best at everything for some reason.
Right. Right.
And there was just the constant pressure all the time to like, meet this expectation. And as
Wow.
I've gotten older, I realize it's just based off of like how my father was raised. And so my dad was a bishop again of the home ward that I was in called the Mount Norway Ward. And things became a little more chaotic as I got a little older. I mean, we weren't poor. Like my dad, was an electrician. So I had a good childhood. Don't get me wrong. And you wouldn't picture a bishop coming home and doing some of the stuff that dude was doing. So he ended up getting kind of let go.
Wow.
He got let go as a bishop and blamed it on me. I remember when I was a kid because the house was kind of out of control, or I don't remember what the terminology was. But I started to have like, I don't know if I was born with it or if I just developed it, but I started to have a lot of anger problems as a young man and just really insecure. So I would say my childhood, I know I'm rambling on here, but my childhood was both good and bad. And every good thing that I have as part of my personality that I haven't built myself, it comes from them. And then some of the bad stuff that I haven't mastered, that also comes from there too. I think about maybe 12 is like the first time I started running away from home when I was in third grade. And
Wow.
I'll go hang out at the neighbor's house until they'd make me leave, and so sometimes I'd just sleep outside or
Right.
sleep. And it was just all I can remember from my childhood is just feeling like conditional love almost. If I didn't, hey, I'm on a podcast. I think
Hold on.
that
So real quick.
the church.
So around that time period, was that the time you started distancing yourself from the church? Was like the abuse? When was the time that you was like, man, dude, I'm tired of this. I mean, here's a man that raised me who really like, in the congregation's eyes, right? They thought this man was holier than thou, right? Like he was the man. He was the man that held the keys, and we all respect him because I grew up in the Polynesian culture and I grew up in the Polynesian war, and so I've seen it all to where everyone from the outside would be like, oh, he's the bishop, he's perfect, and so. But hearing this, when was it when you started distancing yourself from the church?
All that stuff was going on when I was a little kid, so I didn't have. I couldn't defend myself, and I was too small, and I didn't have any resources, So I'm like, I'd say around, I was running away from home a lot, but around 12, I started, being able to stay at, homie house, people that
Yeah.
right. That's the first time I smoked weed. I was laid out, bro. They had to like carry me, and I'm drinking, start drinking,
Right.
and my habit, I started getting good at stealing alcohol to feed my addiction. What became a very quick addiction, and that's
Right.
plagued me most of my life was, alcoholism especially. And so, around 12, maybe 13, I'm just like, well, the thing is I wrestled, part of I started wrestling in second grade and got all the way to high school. So around 13 or 14 is when I started getting arrested, and, I stopped kind of trying to live the right way or live how I was raised around 12 or 13, I think, is when I started.
And you were being rebellious at that time.
Yeah, I don't know what was wrong with me, but it was a cry for help, honestly. I think that's
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Like, I mean, like, I think anyone listening, and I want everybody to hone in on this real quick, like, because there's a lot of people that are going through it now. We see a lot of our Polynesian kids going through it now, and they, the good thing about Utah is that it's a hub of it's the mecca of Polynesia here in Utah. So when we Yeah, when we see a kid that is going through a struggle or going through some family issues and stuff like that, and they're starting to like do things that we see like, oh, it's not going down the right path. A lot of times families do step in and they kind of like advocate for them. They talk to the parents like, hey, is it okay that we can take your son and be with my boy, and that, and a lot of times it's there's it's the parents saving grace, right? Because they're like, thank you, I need that, because right now I just want to strangle him. I want to like get, the abuse start happening, right? And so and I see it, and I want people to understand, because in your situation you didn't have anybody there, right? Like there wasn't, unless there was, but I want you to deep dive into that. But was there a family member that came by and was like, let me take this kid?
You know, I just felt so isolated as a child. I felt so alone. We didn't have, because when we moved to Washoe, we moved out to the boonies. Like we're the only
Oh,
ethnic people. So,
right.
um, so I'm like, I'm struggling with my identity, but control was a huge thing for my parents. Like they had to be in control of everything. And so I think part of them is they wanted to look so perfect that, even as a young child, they started taking me to counseling. They put me in counseling, and I'm not trying to sound like the bitter kid. I'm just telling you how it is. I never
Right,
wanted to
right,
go to
right.
counseling. What do I need counseling for? I'm having issues because y'all are crazy. And so the me being rebellious made it even easier to make me look like the bad guy. And granted, I was making bad decisions,
Right.
but I didn't have like an uncle or an aunt or like someone to go crash, or someone to like what you're talking about. Like a
Right.
bunch of kids my age that are all the people I were running to were not members of the church, right? So it wasn't until I started getting in trouble where one of my uncles, so my dad's uncle, Uncle Frank, was the first Hawaiian to ever become the sheriff of the county that we grew up in. So he was the sheriff. Everyone knew the Kanekoas. And my dad's brother was the chief of Vancouver police. So once I got locked up, my uncle came by a few times to try to petition the judge to go easy on me on my like first couple
Right.
felonies. But I never, my family's so distant that to answer your question without making it super long, is I don't feel like I did in the way that maybe like you would have that rally around you there in Utah but I've seen it though. I've seen exactly what you're talking about, and I love that because that can go a long ways in helping a young man.
No, I mean, like, dude, that's rough, man. Like, it's rough because, in my childhood, I have some similarities there as well. But when you were getting in trouble, right, for the first time, and you're getting locked up, talk about the time where, like, when was it where you just started thinking, like, dude, I got to change here. And if I don't change, I'm just going to keep doing the same thing.
That's a great question. I think a lot of times when you're a young man, you think that a lot of young people are not good at setting goals and accomplishing them, especially if they're in a hole. Like I
Oh,
wasn't.
yeah.
I was in a cycle and that I couldn't get out of. I couldn't get out of it. I couldn't figure it out. So every time you go do your time as a juvenile, and the juvenile, if anyone's ever been to Clark County Juvenile before they made the new one, the place was miserable, and it fights all the time, and it just expanded as you went into the adult system. But I didn't have that aha moment until my very last time in the adult penitentiary.
Right.
In juvenile, I was just in and out, in and out, in and out, and really just entertaining all the wrong people in there and ideas, and then thinking I could get out and I'll somehow make it. Never made a plan to execute. I just didn't have the tools, and my parents didn't have the ability to reach me where I was.
Right.
And so, to their credit, one time instead of going to juvenile prison, they leveraged my uncle's name to send me to a wilderness survival program. And so I got to go to what's called Anasazi down there. And I've been to three of them,
Wow.
but Anasazi in Mesa, Arizona, we basically were rubbing sticks together to make fires and and hiking all over the place in the desert, And it was a pretty cool experience. There was nothing, and I'll leave it at this because I know exactly what changed. When I was 17 years old, I had already been in and out of juvenile for I don't know how many times. My dad's had like 4 bypasses, like heart problems and stuff.
Right.
But he had a massive heart attack when I was 17. I was locked up, and he died in church. And they shocked him like 2 times, and they were like resuscitating him, and he was dead. And one of the brothers in the church was asking the paramedics, "Hey, can you try one more time, please?" And on the 3rd time, he came back. But because he didn't have oxygen for 5 minutes, he had brain damage or just memory loss, like permanent memory loss. And when he came back, he didn't know who none of us were. They gave me a pass to get out of juvenile, and he didn't even know who I was. But when that happened, my dad said that he felt close to other people at one. He didn't want to leave where he was at, he said. And he said the reason he came back was for me and my brother. So from that point, he changed. He became a very soft person. And it was like one of the biggest blessings for our family. I was stuck in the system. I still couldn't figure it out. But he was there for me every step of the way. My dad came to visit me, write me religiously, and all he would ever do is talk. He actually started to, in my opinion, live the gospel. It was just I was too far gone. I was too far gone at the time. And so, quickly I graduated into the adult system, and I ended up doing 4 years in there. And so I don't know if you want me to. So the moment I went to Walla Walla once, shell-shocked, getting involved in gang politics and all that stuff, and all of the drama on an active yard. I wasn't in a special needs yard. I was on main line. Fortunately, nothing against the special needs guys, but I made it the hardest for me because I just wanted to be an idiot. I've done time in the shoe, every bit of drama that you could have been in there. Unfortunately, I tried it out. So the very last time I was in there, it's crazy because I couldn't picture a life outside of that for the longest time. And no wonder when I get out, I go right back in because when I was outside, that's all I would think about. That's how I would act. That's how I would talk. And that's what was the law of attraction that I was attracting to myself that I understand now. Everyone I sat with was a lifer. Everyone was a murderer that I was sitting with. And that was where it started. One of the lifers pulled me aside one time. His name is Loco Bird. He's from Marihuanos 13 Southside gang. And he was one of my friends. And everything we're doing in here, homie, is a lie. Everything. And you're not really supposed to talk like that, because you can get in trouble for saying crazy stuff. And people are real petty. Just, you fight over everything. But it got me thinking about dang, dudes. And so I was working in the library, and one of the guys that I worked with was a 3 strike. He didn't even kill anyone. He's doing 3 strikes. And we're walking down the breezeway. And this is, I have a memoir that's coming out, another book that talks about all this coming out. It's called Ring Reaction. But we're walking, and the sun's going down, and he kind of looks over at me as we're walking back to the unit. He's like, "Man, can't believe I'm going to die in here." And he kind of laughs about it. And I'm like, wow. I'm like, what do I say? I'm getting out in 19 months. But I just remember that being impactful. And I remember thinking to myself, this is going to be my life. I was like, this is going to be where I end up doing life or dying here. I don't want that to be me. I was watching, because I had wrestled for 7 years, I had this competitive nature. I loved the UFC. I watched it from its beginning. And I kind of always had that, or at least I thought I had it in me. I always thought I was could fight and stuff. And so I had that kind of desire, that fire in me. I was watching the story of Bernard Hopkins in there, who was, and I was on a prison TV, and and I thought to myself, I'm like, dang, if that guy can get out of prison and become a world champion, I looked at that and I was like, man, what winning must feel like. I want to be a winner. I'm so tired of being a loser. And I felt it to my soul. I want to be a winner just like that. And from that, I decided my way out of this, I'm going to become a fighter. From that day forward, I started training. I trained with one of the other lifers named Gato, and that was my purpose. That became my purpose. I had nothing but like some ramen noodles, and nobody else believed in me. But that's the ignition switch. That like I'm going to do everything I can to accomplish this, and then that became my purpose. And I had never had a purpose before. I was lost. And so that last time, and that was I think that was 2007 or 2008, and I was released from prison in 2008, and I had a fight within a month of getting out, and I just kept going down that road. I wasn't completely perfect after that, but that started me on a different path.
Oh, that's awesome. Like, how long was that journey of boxing when you got out?
Oh, I would say I competed. I trained like twice a day for 5 years and competed for about 5 years. I had, just under 10 fights. And the reason why I didn't have a ton of fights is because I should have had more like 30 to 50 fights in that period. But because I started when I was like, 20
older.
And so I'm older, I'm a heavyweight. And so it's harder to match up. Like if they would have brought a 20-year-old kid heavyweight who has no experience, like I would have just ran over him. So a lot of it was matchmaking. And the other part is like my coach, Leonard Gabriel from Fisicus Boxing, he was more into pushing the guys that he had in his stable that were in the UFC. And I was just an amateur. But I would say I competed for about 5 years. I won a state title match pat at the Oregon Silver Gloves, and I fought at the Oregon Golden Gloves.
Nice.
And I've had opportunity to train with a lot of guys who people know and stuff. And
right.
And then just kind of trained, and I kind of never came back. Like I just trained and helped other guys get ready after my competing days were done. And so I think I competed up until I was just about 30, and then I stayed pretty active into my mid 30s. I'm 42 now.
We're around the same age, man. So we got to stay healthy, dudes. And like, so when was it? So after your competition days, like obviously you're in sales today, and we talked about that off air a little bit. But so tell me when did it, like, after your competition, when did you say, you know what, I'm gonna get into this career and stuff like, or did you have to go through a bunch of careers before you got to where you are today?
Man, this is a whole nother story. Let me rewind back. In 2008, about a month or two after I'd been released, I'm training. I'm like, that's my life. I'm making like $400 a month riding the bus on food stamps. That's how. But I was rich, bro. Like I had a purpose.
Hold on. I want to pause you there. Say that crap again, because I don't think people understand that. Like when you're like in a different mindset, and you're, like people might like $400 on food stamps. You're rich, bro. Like you're rich at that time, especially when you're just riding a bike to competitions. You're rich, bro. Like, so now go ahead. I just wanted the audience to know, man. Like, hey, when you a different times.
That's what gives you your purpose and your reason for living. Obviously, these things change and your priorities change as you get older. Hopefully, that's why I have so much respect for guys that stay in the sport and will work a full-time job and fight these little $800 fights when you get started as a pro. But I made the dumb decision. I relapsed on alcohol about a month after I got out, and I got involved in a robbery. After I sobered up, it consisted of me. This guy set him up because I lost my job at the shipyards, and because I was making $400 a month at Subway. Then I got called to the shipyards. I started making better money, and then they'd lay me off. I would quit over the dumbest things, like, oh, my girlfriend cheated on me. Okay, screw it. I'm gonna go wild out. That was my mindset back then. Like, just the little bit of wind would blow me, right? And so I'm like drinking with the homies. They give me this idea. Oh, you need money? Well, you can go rob this guy. So I was like, all right. And just consisted of me like running up, stalking him, taking his money. It was like, but these are felonies. The last one I did like 2 times. And basically, I beat this guy up, took his car, took his wallet, and the guy only had. They told me he had hundreds of dollars. He had like $20, and I remember hitting him. And he was like, he was scared. He was this SA. He was this Mexican guy, and I totally regret all this. Like, I'm not bragging. This is just happened, right? And I would never do anything like this again. But after that night, the car stopped working. I parked it downtown and it stopped working. So I threw the keys in the dumpster. This is how I got into sales. That's what this story is about. So I don't even, I'm looking up at the sky and I'm thinking about what the F am I doing? Like, how am I here again? How did this happen? I pull my mattress out of this clean and sober house that I'm living in. No one's clean and sober there. And I pull it out and I look at the sky and I remember praying to God. I'm like, God, if you help me, please help me get out of this. I promise I'll never drink again. I'll never hurt anyone ever again. And I meant it. I didn't know what the result of the prayer would be, but I meant it. And the very next day, these tweakers had stolen my wallet and they had thrown my food stamp card like a block away. I ended up finding it. I was like, oof, great. But I went and found a job. So that's when I found my job at Subway. And within a week, the major crimes unit came in and showed me pictures of this guy and the guy's car. And the reason I knew it was the guy's car is because the guy had Betty Boop covers. It must have been his wife's car. I don't know what it was. But I didn't have to tell him the truth. So I told him, I didn't know. I'm like, well, if they're interviewing me, then that means they don't have the pieces. Yeah, I don't know. And they swabbed my mouth, which is like, they already had my DNA anyway. I don't know why they did that. Like, we're going to swab that car. We're going to CSI that car. And so I took that as a sign when they left my Subway shop that God had answered my prayer. I was like, I'm good. And I went on with fighting. I went on with I started going to church a little bit. And I met a girl and she got pregnant and I ended up getting married. And I think I had like 3 fights between that time in 2008. So 9 months has gone by. And since that robbery, and we get married. We got married in the church building and her family was there. My family was there. We had just gotten married. And maybe 2 days after I got married, I got a call from my mom and she's like, Todd, what you been doing? She's like, the sheriff was just here. And they left a card at the door and they said that you have a probable cause warrant for robbery. And I'm like, oh my, this can't be real. Like, I'm like, I don't know if you ever done something. Now all of a sudden the paranoia is there and the stress is there. Your cortisol jumps up and now you're like wanted level number 5, on Grand Theft or whatever. Well, that's how that was. And I couldn't believe this was happening. I'm like, why, God, why? I go back, I tell my pregnant wife what's happening. She's crying. We get on our knees and pray. And I'm like, God, I've changed my life. Like I've changed. Why is this happening? And so out of duress, I think humans do weird stuff when they're extremely stressed out. Oh yeah. And I quit my job at Subway immediately because I knew they'd come find me, but I couldn't quit. My mind was like, I'm not going to try. My coach was a cop. Hey, come, I'll help you turn yourself in. We'll figure it out. I'm like, no, I can't. I can't turn myself in. I was like, I got my wife's pregnant. And so I remember this guy that it came into the ward employment, like in precinct or something, and he owned an alarm company. So for some weird reason, I'm like, I'm going to give this guy a call. So I called him. I'm like, hey, I'd like to come to work. So I'm knocking doors all of a sudden now in the city where I have the warrant. Like, bro, I knocked for 5 days. This is a commission job. But I get my first sale in 5 days. And that day, a cop pulled my car group over for someone called the cops on us or something. And he ran 3 out of 6 Bs and let us go. And I was like, oh my gosh. So I end up calling up the owner. I was like, dude, I can't do this. And I said, you know what? I really appreciate the opportunity. Thank you so much for hiring me, but I can't work for you because I have a warrant for robbery. I just told him straight up. He goes, the next words that came out of his mouth was like, oh, well, when can you have your bags packed? And I was like, what? He's like, yeah, I'm from, I think he's from San Clemente. And I understand what it's like, don't tell anybody where you're going. And you start, trying to, I still don't get it to this day. And he had me ask my cousin and my dad for like $500. And I bummed $500 from my dad and my cousin. And he came and picked me up in his Mercedes and took me to the Greyhound station and I dipped. And so my whole goal was like, hey, I'm going to try to ride this out till the statute of limitations expires. Well, anyway, I left, and that is how I learned how to sell because I had no other choice. Now,
Right, right.
obviously, this is the shadiest, sketchiest story ever, and I'm not proud of it, but I learned a skill. Those 4 months I was gone, I learned how to do this, and I only sold 16 my first summer. 16, say,
Wow.
but I was sending all my money back home, and this was back when MySpace was still around, and so
Right. So you were
former
sending it back
UFC
to you were sending it back to your pregnant wife
I could keep
at the
very
time.
little, like maybe 100, $200 for myself off of every commission check, and I was good back then. Inflation wasn't as high back then, and groceries. But I remember one of the guys I used to spar with, his name George Soteropoulos from UFC, and he was like 8-0 in the middleweight division. I was 189 back then. That's why I was sparring him. But he would cut down to 155, and so we were friends from the same gym. And he messaged me on MySpace one day, and he's like, "Hey, did you hear that your victim doesn't want to be a victim anymore?" And I'm like, "What?" He's like, "Yeah, call Leonard." And so Leonard was the coach. "Your victim doesn't want to be a victim anymore. You can come back and train." And because he kind of talks like that. And so basically what ended up happening, so 4 months has gone by, right? I think the victim got deported. I think that's what happened. Because Obama was deporting a
Oh
bunch
yeah,
of
yeah,
people
yeah.
back in
Oh yeah, yeah,
2008, and he
yeah.
did,
During that
he
time.
was gone. So I got so lucky, and that's how I got into sales.
Wow.
It's a sketchy story, but I learned a skill, and I came back to Vancouver after that, and I learned a skill of how to sell. But I still wanted to keep fighting. I still wanted to train, and I still did. I kept going, but I also had to leave every summer, like to go work,
Sure.
And
Yeah,
so
yeah.
boxing started to take a back. And so when we fast forward to 2011, I at the Golden Gloves, I end up after losing that fight, I went on to make $110,000 in 3 months right after losing that fight. And to me,
Wow.
I'd never made that much money before. And so I realized that this is going to be better to support my family than to be a fighter. And
Now.
but one other thing I wanted to mention too, I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Les Mis or Les Miserables or whatever you call it, with
Oh,
Liam
Les Mis.
Neeson
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
Uma Thurman.
Yeah.
Les Mis.
No. I've watched that. I've watched the
So
play, and I actually watched the
the
movie too. So.
the one with Liam Neeson is a banger. That one's my
Oh
favorite.
yeah.
But there's a
Yeah.
point, I really relate to that scene when Liam Neeson knocks out the priest, takes his stuff, dips, and gets caught by the police, the French, or I don't know what police, French police or something. And he gets caught, comes back. Yeah, you said you gave him all this stuff. He's like, yeah, I did. Why didn't you take the candlesticks? And he gave him the candlesticks, and they let him free.
Yeah.
And Liam Neeson's like, why are you doing this? And he's like, with this silver, I've purchased your soul. I've ransomed you from evil and hatred. And with this, I send you back to God. And he's like, remember, you promised to be a new man. And that scene always hits me so hard because the atonement of Jesus Christ, that's what that is. With God, like
That's
what
right.
happened in my robbery, God is justice. Like, you don't pay, bro. You can't
Yeah.
be screwing around. But with Jesus Christ, sometimes you get grace. And that scene, when I wasn't worthy, I don't deserve it. I was given mercy, but I had to show that I really wanted it. So that's how I got into sales and had that transformation. Because there's no way, bro. If you would have known me when I was younger, like I was on some dumb. I was just not. My social skills not okay.
Yeah, no. I love it. I love your story because you just mentioned it right now. Like a lot of people that go through trauma growing up and a lot of those things. There's no social skills. Our social skills, we get into trouble, we do dumb stuff. To transition to now and to see you, and I love just sitting back. And this is why I love doing what I do, because I get to sit back and just watch you and just like hear your story and to sit there and just watch you talk. That transformation from where you were to today, amazing. And so kudos for you on that. Let's talk about, and you tapped in a little bit. You tapped in a little bit on the gospel side of it, right? So let's deep dive into that. When was the moment, you started saying, you know what, I'm going to change. the grace of Jesus Christ and his atonement and all that stuff. How long of a period was that? And how long was it to today? Like where you full change, where you just like, nope, this is what I'm doing, this is who I am.
Sometimes that's a great question, Thomas. Sometimes I think people look at change as like a one-time event, and then you're in heaven, for the rest of the time. But that hasn't been how it has worked for me. And so I'd say, like, when I was married, I've been married before, several times, and I've fallen several times. So I had an 8-year stretch of being very active in the church when I first got out. I basically was trying to live the letter of the law, like hard. Like I was thinking, okay, who I want to be a complete square and do everything like that I could do. So hold on. It says trying to reconnect. Make sure you have this. Get off the internet. Yeah, I think I'm good. If you can still hear me. But I think
no, I can still hear you. It'll clear it up.
I went through a divorce in 2016. I relapsed. So I kept my promise for about 8 years. I relapsed, and I spent a couple years kind of active, inactive, trying to come back, but not like fully, because I felt I had tried so hard to live what I thought was the gospel, like meaning, because I'd never lived it up to that point, like fully. So I'm like, okay, I have to live every single, like, I don't know if you've ever been through this, but like, I'm going to get 100% on all my home teaching. I won't jaywalk. I don't cuss. I wake up at 4 a.m. and I'm reading the scriptures, and at that time I was in the Spanish branch. And so I'm like trying to learn Spanish. And when I fell so hard. I was like, why did I try so hard? And I had this shame and this, like, it was all for nothing. And I felt so ashamed. So I think that's what, in 2016, when I fell, it was kind of a barrier for me to, like, turn around and just, like, get back on my horse and start going hard. And that's where I learned more about grace too, is like, okay, God, sometimes the only effort you can give is like, it's not 100%. It's sometimes 1%. To be honest with you, within the last 3 years is when I gave it my best effort to come back to church. I had a bishop that I was working with. And then when I moved states, I transferred bishops. And I started realizing, because I had never been through the temple before, I'd never received my endowment. I'd never thought that I would be able to do that. And I never dated either, because I didn't think Latter-day Saint women would want anything to do with me. Like, they want a return missionary, they want someone who's been to the temple. I had all these ideas in my mind, and none of it was true, I come to find out. And so I got on the Mutual app, bro. So I found out about Mutual like maybe 2 years ago, and paid for all the extra features. I paid the extra money for it. So now I can warthog all over the world. And so finally I found in Latin America, and my wife, who was my girlfriend at the time, she starts hitting me up. I block all these girls, and I'm working with my bishop. I'm living in Alabama. And so it's like, within these last 2 years, I started working towards having a goal of going to the temple. All the stuff that I've done in my past, all the repentance process, all the things that I've had to do to fight back and to show, like, hey, I'm serious. Like, I'm trying to become a better human. I'm trying to live the gospel, be clean and sober, all of those things. I had a good leader this last time around. His name is Bishop Phillips, and a good stake president. And finally I went, and I was like, dang, this is my whole childhood. I had the gospel beat into me, and this is what they wanted me to do, and they're not going to love me unless I do this. And so the gospel came to me in the most weird way possible. I believe the church is true, and I believe that the Book of Mormon is true. I believe Jesus, the atonement. I believe all these things, regardless of the imperfect or not imperfect parents that I had, regardless of how it was brought to me. God is the one that kind of pulls things around to make you understand these things, and I'm grateful for that. So after that, I ended up going through the process of getting sealed, and that was a lot of work too, because it was not here. So in the last couple of years, everything's like sped up. There's been a lot of blessings that I've experienced. Obviously, I'm married to the woman of my dreams. It helps me to live the gospel, to have made these promises and these covenants in the temple before God and before my wife. And knowing all of the things that I'm still not perfect, but
Of course.
I'm
Yeah.
trying. There's a big difference, the bishop told me, between being rebellious and having a weakness. And that's something that hits me because of how I was raised. I was conditioned to believe that the church and the gospel is a certain way. And as I've become older, I have had so much myth busting over the last couple of years. It's a miracle. It's amazing, So every time I see missionaries, I have a special place in my heart for missionaries because they're always the ones that have brought me back to church, to help me get active again, to
Right.
listen to me whenever I'm going through.
No,
But
no, no, no. You're good, man.
yeah,
Yeah. No, that's great, man. Dude, that is, to me, hearing that for the first time and get to hear your journey, and how you guys met and the whole process of the redemption, right? And how you had to work so hard to get back to God's grace, right? And so it's always been there. And I think I want people to understand is like when we're going through these challenges of life and we're going through these struggles, He's there always. He's always there. And He's never left our side. However, He wants us to do the work. And as soon as we do the work and we can hear that spirit, then we can be able to be in tune with His, and aligned with what He wants for us. Sometimes we don't hear it or we don't see it right away because we're so focused on what the challenge at hand. And I think that's a lot of people. That's me too, still today. So I'm still working on those things. Before we end, you mentioned you had kids. How many kids do you have?
I have 5 children, so I have
Five
five
children.
and one on the way.
Congratulations, man. What's the age range from there?
So I have from 22 all the way down to just being born. So
Kids
22,
being born.
16, well, soon to be 13 this month,
Right.
6 and 4, and then a newborn.
Have they seen you? Have they seen you go through a lot of these chances, especially your oldest? I know the couple oldest ones right there, like you mentioned, 22 and 16. Have they seen you at your worst?
My oldest, she came into my life when she was 18. Her mom kind of kept her out of my life all of her life. And my 16-year-old and 13-year-old have seen me struggle. They don't know everything, and they definitely don't know who I was when I was, a wannabe thug and in prison. So, that they've seen, the thing is now with kids, and that's one of the reasons that I've started to write books, and I have like 6 that are published on Amazon. My new one coming out is called Ring Redemption. Let me plug it right here. But I started writing because I spent a lot of time away from my kids. I used to, and so now that they're teenagers and I'm not there all the time to be on top of them, it's like I think a lot of teens rebel, but all my kids are doing way better than I was when I was their age.
Right.
And maybe that's a low bar for success or whatever, but I'm so happy. I have a relationship with all of them. But I would say my teenagers, that's why I started writing. And a lot of my books that I have are directed at teens because I understand how I was when I was a teen. There's so many voices, social media makes it worse. And I want to be able to influence them in some way that I can. And that's what got me started writing. But yes, they've seen me struggle a little bit, and that's part of the reason, even if they don't appreciate it.
Right.
That's one of the reasons that I live my life the way I live it now, is who am I going to be when they get old enough to really see what's going on? Because you don't see nothing when you're a kid, honestly, I don't think.
Right.
Who am I going to be when it finally clicks? Am I going to be the guy that gave up and fell in the bottle, or am I going to be the guy that kept moving forward? And I think that's why I live my life the way today for them.
So here, as we ended right now, or we're going towards the end, here's the platform. And I want your kids are going to watch this, and I want you to direct your advice to them right now. I know you're writing books for teens, and that was the whole main purpose of it because of, your children and stuff. Here's your moment to where you can give advice to them right now and where you are and the love that you have for them.
Sure. I would want my kids to know that, dad's not perfect. Dad, but dad, dad tries to live, practice what he preaches. I try to do the things that I tell you that you ought to be doing. I'll always try to love you the way that the Savior loves people. I want you guys to be successful and to be happy. And what I found in my life is that true happiness and true success, it only comes from striving to live the gospel. And as corny as that might sound for a teenager or even my own children, because I'm like, hey, did you read your scripture today? It comes with doing the small things like reading your scriptures each day, making time for family prayer, even if I'm not there, doing your best to get to church. Those three things, as dumb as it sounds, that is what has helped me so much. And you're going to need these things as you get older. And so I think that would be my message to my kids, that I love you and I'm doing my best here.
Oh, that's awesome, man. So hopefully the kiddos, man, and your teens do tune in. I'm praying that they do, and they watch this clip here. But last but not least, I do want you to send off a message to your beautiful wife who's in Colombia. What's her name, her full name, and then give a shout out to her before we end it.
Sure. So my wife's name is Jessica Paola Kanekoa Mejia. And I'm so thankful to have you in my life. Thank you for choosing me. Thank you for believing in me and making me your eternal companion. Just thank you for in entertaining all of my bad jokes and all of my all of the other stuff that you got to deal with for being with me.
Right.
But I look forward to a lifetime and eternity together. And I love you.
Wow, that's awesome, man. Congratulations to you and the wife on the new child that's coming in. You want to share, like, when is baby coming?
February. And so we don't know what it is yet, but we're kind of hoping for a boy, because boys, I feel like, are a little easier. And so she wants to name the boy Kimo. She wants to name the boy. If it's a boy, his name will be Kimo. And we haven't even picked girls' names, because every name I picked, like, she's like, no. Nope.
Oh, man. Well, Todd, man, thank you so much for coming on, man. Any last words before we end it?
Thanks for having me on. Yeah, well, any of you guys that follow Roots in the City podcast, make sure you like and subscribe. I also have a podcast on YouTube. It's called the Consecrate Podcast. Life is a blessing.
I'd love to pay you the favor, so let me know when you can.
For sure, man.
Well, thanks for coming on, man. This is Roots in the City podcast, where real stories, real struggles, and real growth happens here. See you guys later.